Well, hello and good evening and welcome to another episode of Positively Positive. And I am your glamorous host, Susan Mintz. Oh, tonight's show is going to be over the top overwhelming. I am so excited. Of course, I'm excited with every show because I just love what I'm doing. I love what we talk about, the people we meet, and the listeners who are enjoying it, and the people who are learning so much about so much. It's just a wonderful show, Positively Positive, because all things and everything are HIV/AIDS related, and there's nobody else. There's no other program. There's no other episode. There's no other podcast. Nobody else is doing anything like this in this whole world on a weekly basis. I mean, that's what's so exciting. God is so great. I mean, to think about, here we are in South Florida and just doing this, interviewing people all over the country. They're telling their stories about how they got involved with HIV, whether it's personal, whether it's community activism, whether it's loss, whether it's just everything. To think I have a monopoly on a program with a wonderful producer of Campbell Health Solutions. They're just able to do so much good at a time when there's such bad information, and to think about the stigma that still exists with HIV. And here, at least on this program, this podcast, Positively Positive, we're trying to break down the barriers that exist. So tonight's guest is very exciting. It's extremely personal. I mean, we're talking as personal as it can get. And so I told you about the show, and I always tell you a little bit about my guest. I haven't said his name yet, but he has been in my life for 20 years, and he has become, he's a distant relative in many ways, but yet he is so close to me. And he's just an incredible human being who has a fascinating story. And he's involved in so much in his community in New York. And I just want to welcome him. So when I take my glasses off, we know it's like when the gloves are off, you know that expression, when the gloves are, this is when the glasses come off, I introduce my guest. So tonight I'm going to say, Tommie Thompson, come on in.
And actually, I'm going to do a tribute to you. And for a quick second, I'm going to put my glasses on and say, thank you for the invitation. Yes, yes, yes. Yes.
It's taken a while, darling, to get you on, but just be persistent, patient, and in God's timing, right? My reason I say Tommie Thompson is so personal is though we've only met once. And I live in Boca, you live in New York, and I don't think you've come down here that many times. But Pastor Billy William Thompson, number 55, the basketball legend, is this Jewish woman's pastor for 20 years. Oh, wait till he watches this show. And he's going to go, oh my God, she got him on, and look at her talking, and oh, look at her. Oh, he is going to be so excited. The whole congregation, by the time I'm done promoting this, is going to know. Everybody is going to know you by the time we get done with this. Tommie Thompson from New York City. You live in Harlem, you said?
I am in Harlem, USA. Yes, indeed.
But now, to back up, because I always like to give a history with our guests, knowing your history, you were born in Camden, New Jersey. Now, you have how many siblings in your family?
There's 6 of us all together. And yes, we were born in Camden, New Jersey.
And when did you move? Because you've spent most of your life in New York, though, haven't you?
I spent most of my life, yes, in New York. Grew up in Camden, New Jersey. My parents eventually moved further into the suburbs of Jersey, Lawnside and Lindenwold area. Really wonderful. So I went through high school in Camden, went to university at Rutgers, Camden campus. And so in my early 20s, I was fascinated already with dance and music and singing. My parents put me in dance school when I was about 9 years old. because, and we'll talk about it, but my parents, and especially on my mother's side, come from a string of grandfather classical pianist with his own dance orchestra, my grandmother a seamstress, and would create amazing garments and clothing for ballet companies in Philadelphia area, etc. So when I told my parents I was going to leave Rutgers earlier and move to Philadelphia to join a dance company, we had some conversations, let's say, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, from Camden to Philadelphia and then to New York. Came to New York in the middle 70s. So I've been here. I'm a New Yorker.
That's what I'm thinking. So you've been there, you were in Philadelphia for a while, because we've talked on the phone previously a few times, but you were in Philadelphia in a dance school. Where were you, at Rutgers? Where were you?
In Camden, I went to Rutgers University. I was taking English Lit and studying music. And I would visit Philadelphia often, and I, in the cultural community, ran into friends who were in dance companies and theater groups, and they were like, "We need you here." And I'm tall. I'm 6'2". You know, my brother's 6'9". My other brother, he's 6'7". So I'm 6'2", and I would go to some of the events in Philadelphia while I was still in college. And some of the designers, fashion designers in Philadelphia, they would see me and they would come to me and say, "Oh, wow, you're tall, you wear clothes well. We would like to use you in our shows." So I started modeling in Philadelphia, and that's how I started meeting a lot of folk there in the creative arts community. And so that's when I was introduced to some dancers who were interested in introducing me to their dance company, and I met and started taking classes there, and then the rest is that they asked me to join the company, so I danced there for about 3 years, and yeah, just before coming to New York.
How old were you when you went to New York, though? Then you knew this was where you were going to be.
I was actually in my, wow, oh man, I haven't had this kind of conversation
We got
in a
plenty of
long.
time. This is not a Zoom. We got plenty of time. I want to know dates. Trust me, when it comes to dates, it's like I have to have a calculator at this point in my life.
Yes, yes. But just remembering my 20s, sometimes it's only a journey I take in meditation or inner thoughts about where I am, where I'm going. But yeah, I was in my early 20s, middle 20s. And
Yeah.
I actually was dancing in Philadelphia with this company. And so, of course, my parents accepted the fact and they let me leave Rutgers University and do this. And but I had to live over there now. So at these swing parties, I would meet people, and there was this young lady who was smitten with me, and she was known, like, she was similar to you. She was very gregarious and very out there and very show, and she was known as one of the forerunners in the cultural community in Philadelphia. Everyone knew Janice, and so she came over to me one day at an event, just walked over to me, Sagittarian, and she says, "What's your name?" And I said, "Tommie." And she said, where are you from?" And I said, "From Camden. I have some friends in Camden and some friends I've met here now in Philadelphia." She's like, "Okay, we're going to be friends." I was like, "Oh, okay." And a little Jersey boy, you know, this was kind of fast for me. And of course, now I'm in New York, I know what that is. But she said, "We're going to be friends." And lo and behold, we talked, and then we would keep in touch. And she was suggesting, because I was commuting from my parents' home to Philadelphia for my classes and for the company. And she said, "You need to live over here. We're going to be roommates." And we ended up, yes, getting an apartment together on the University of Penn's campus, a huge apartment in a wonderful area there in Philadelphia. I spoke with my parents, of course. My parents were like, "Okay, we're going to let you do this. You're over there, you're working, you're doing the company, da-da-da-da." And so we moved in together, and it was amazing. And So we would do all the events, all the, social, society, cultural events. And because I was now with Janice all the time, then people would wonder, who is he? Who is he? He's with Janice? She's the belle of our town. She's the one. And I was a quiet, soft-spoken young man, still to a point am. And I
Yeah.
was thrust into that by she just filling my spirit, my aura, and we becoming friends, Sagittarian, Gemini. So I met so many people, and people were then becoming interested in what I was doing and my abilities in singing and dance. And it was amazing beginning of that journey for me there in Philadelphia.
And then you danced your way to New York. And then
Oh,
you twinkled your toes all the way up to New York.
Susan, in this conversation, there are going to be quite a number of things that you're going to hear that were magical, that were spirit driven only, is what I could say.
So,
Yes, yes. From that apartment in West Philadelphia, I went traversed to New York. But how? Every summer there's a big festival in all the cities and towns across the country. And in Philadelphia in the summer there was this big arts festival, and people would come from all over, from DC and from New York and from the outskirts and they would come and go to hotels and everything and do this 3-day festival. So Janice and I had this huge apartment, and as I said, she's the belle of the ball in Philadelphia. So people were all over our house, all over our house all the time, all over our apartment. That we would have dinner parties and cocktail parties, and people would end up like you see in the movies with the Mick Jagger and all of the folk, rock folk and all that, right? Sleeping, waking up, you wake up and someone's sleeping on the floor, someone's sleeping on the couch, and so all these people were always all around, and people from out of town would come. They would know about Janice. They would talk to her. She said, "Oh, you can stay with us." We had 2 huge bedroom apartments, huge living room, huge dining room. Anyway, I was doing this festival at this particular time, and a couple of people from New York had come down, and they stayed at our apartment, and some other friends. And so in this festival, I had a number where I was doing a dance and song number. So the dance song man, right? So everyone came to the festival, gathered that day, had our breakfast, etc. And then I'm off to do my work, and they're off to hang at the festival. And people that I didn't know just met, and from New York. So I do the show, massive show, wonderful. And then my turn, I come on and I'm doing a dance number, and I'm singing and all that jazz. When you got the and I'm feeling great and feeling fine, and my extensions and everything, I'm just kicking it. When it was over and I'm back with the group and Janice and the friends, one of the fellas that was from New York says, "Oh my God, you're incredible." He's like, "You're amazing." And I smiled, very humble. And he's like, "What have you been doing?" And I told him about the dance company and all of this. And he's like, "You need to be in New York." And I was like, "Yeah, well, I've thought about it, a little here and there, but, I wasn't sure I was ready. But yeah, I've thought about it." He said, "Listen, anytime you feel that you're ready, just give me a call." He said, "I will do anything I can do to help you get situated and get hooked up." And I said, "Well, thank you." And so that was after the event, and everybody, he was lit, I was lit, he was lit. And, we go back to the apartment, we go to dinner that night, we go to other affairs. And he's just reminding me every so often, "Don't forget now, don't forget," and gave me all of that. And so fast forward, Janice, again, we were just friends. We weren't lovers, and we were friends and roommates. And she had a boyfriend, wonderful fella, really cool, and we would hang and all that. So she came to me one day and she said, "Tommie," his name was Herbie. She said, "Me and Herbie are having a baby." I was like, "Whoa!" They were like, "Whoa!" And she says to me, "But Tommie, you don't have to worry about finding another place to live and everything like that. you stay because, we'll find another apartment for us. You keep the apartment like that. And I said, okay, well, yeah, well, let's think about this. And yes, I was grounded. I was in a dance company. I was doing other projects around, etc. So, but after I was giving it some thought, again, Spirit came to me and it said, Tommie, this might be the time. This might be the time to talk to your friend and see about that. Talk to your parents and see who were, in Camden, in Jersey, and see what they feel about it. And so that's what I did. I talked to my parents about it and the possibility of it and that sort of thing. And my dad was like, well, it sounds like that's what you've been wanting to do and doing. And that's the place from what I hear and know. And then they asked me, of course, about the fellow and everything. And he had become a friend because we would communicate and he knew Janice and other people in Philadelphia. So after a few weeks, literally, I gave him a call and I said, Bruce, I said, I think I'm going to take you up on that. I'm going to consider coming to New York. I'm going to let them keep this apartment. And so they said I can stay here with them until I need to. So he said, literally, he was like, oh, man, oh, great. He's like, okay, all right, I'm gonna start doing it there, and I'll get back to you about this. I'll get back to this. Literally, I will tell you, Susan, in a matter of a few weeks, he had a place for me to stay. One of his best friends lived on Central Park West, on 88th and Central Park. Right, I mean,
That's a good zip code.
Yes, and he worked for the police department, but he was one of the ones that intakes information at the what do you call it, the offices, the stable where people come in for their complaints and where the officers sort of plug in and check in for the day. So he was a staff member on that level, but he lived in this huge floor through apartment on West 88th and Central Park. Huge floor through, amazing views and trees, etc. You cross the street and you're right in Central Park. And he had all this space, and it was just him and his kitty cat.
You've lived very well. You've had nice places to live. The thing that when I talk to you, you remind me so much of the life I had with Jeff. I mean, but it was just the arts, the people we associated with. It was just a dynamic group of people in the 70s and the 80s that I mourn and I miss my life. That yes, there were people at 4:00 in the morning. We were stoned out of our minds, watching the sun come up after a good show. But I miss the stage. I miss the theater. I miss the drama. I miss the life I had with him. And you so remind me of it because of your background and the way you've lived. That was my life, the way you're talking. That's why you and I connect so well. The life you've had and lived and continue to live is the life, and I have a great life, but I miss, you bring up parts of your life that I feel that I can just remember. Maybe I didn't have the literal queen from Houston in my house at 4:00 in the morning while I'm making marijuana brownies, but I had a good imitation of Liza Minnelli and Cher and Diana Ross after their shows. They were sitting in my living room waiting for me to have the brownies come out, and we'd be watching the sun come up. I mean, I miss that whole theatrical group.
Oh, I was meeting all the models and the Pat Clevelands and the Billy Blairs, and as they were asking me to model too, and we explain it as artists, and the artist in you. Once born into the spirit of an artist, I've realized, and through all these years, that it's who you are.
It's a call on your life.
Yes, it flies through in every and aspects of your life, unless you're one who totally decides that you're going to squash that. You're going to not relate to that for whatever reasons, and people have done and can do that.
Sure.
But if you care to hold on to it as much as possible, it's innate in you,
right?
And it's spirit. And the arts, oh,
Yeah.
let me channel my brother for a moment so that when he does see this and the congregation, as you said.
I'd like to have him show it. I'd like to have a vision, have it air one night during the week on his thing, and have it air so the whole congregation. Anybody that wants to watch Susan Mintz and Tommie Thompson do their interview, we're going to air it for the congregation if you want to tune in on a Tuesday night. Oh, it would be such a hoot.
Popcorn and root beer.
Oh, well, yeah, I don't know if they're allowed that in the sanctuary anymore. Oh, it's
But
wonderful.
same, yes.
The other
but
thing
same,
then is
quickly, just if I
being in
quickly,
the
go ahead.
being in the 70s, though, the 80s, and I'm talking about, HIV was where my husband passed from. He fought for 2 years, but he was bisexual and promiscuous, and he was my best friend. I mean, that's the point. I never looked at him as my husband.
Okay,
He was,
yes.
to me, was my best friend. We just happened to live together. We got married, and I adored him, and he adored me. And it was just, it's so hard to explain to people who are married that I was married, but it was just my best friend, and I missed the life he gave. I had with him with that, because even though there was hell on earth at times, I missed the roller coaster. I missed it all.
And that's the aspect of tripping the light fantastic, if you will, that artists bring to any situation. And that's what I was going to share, even in terms of the spirit of it. Even when I talk with my brother and to congregation members and to the spirit that Prophetess Cynthia speaks and talks and shares. Like, as an artist, it's just so that spirit can also bring forth that kind of excitement and energy in true spirit form from the heart,
from the heart. They're genuine. They are from the heart, Pastor and Prophet. They are definitely from the heart. But it is a call on your life. Whether I always say that you don't choose your message chooses you. Now, whether you want to accept that, I could have walked away at the age of 48, being left very comfortable. I was really beautiful, and I mean, I could have done a few other things, probably gone to a synagogue and gotten remarried to some old guy. I could have done really well. No, the call on my life has been stay into the HIV lane, wherever it takes you, wherever you go. It's about people. It's about love. It's about a call on your life. And this is my ministry, and it's taken me to where we are today. But I wanted to ask you, being in the theater, that's the big part of this, being in the theater and in the arts and in the dance area, the whole stage of which is your thing. How did HIV affect your community then?
Well, for me, when it started arriving, let's say in the early 80s, by then I was living in New York for quite some time. I was really embedded in the theater community, especially musical theater. So friends of mine were doing The Wiz on Broadway and Ain't Misbehavin', and so many wonderful. I was taking classes and doing some projects with Dance Theater of Harlem and Alvin Ailey. So all these artists, as you say, it's community and amazing folk. I mean, like Stephanie Mills or Dee Dee Bridgewater, now become one of the well-known world's jazz singers. But they, performers, they lived in big apartments here in Harlem, and they would always, after shows or after events and stuff, we'd go back to their homes would be open. You go back to their home, and you're breaking bread together, and you're meeting and talking and sharing about cultural events and that sort of thing. And so everyone was your sister, your brother, your family. We are a family like a giant tree. So from Dreamgirls, we are a family.
We are a family.
And that's what it was, this huge family. And so, yes, it was horrendous. It was so scary and all of that when all of a sudden, like recently we had the pandemic and people are saying, oh, so-and-so is not with us anymore. So-and-so died or so-and-so. and friends were just moving like that and falling like that. And then other people, of course, in the world that you know of in that community, and the same gender loving community, the gay community, the trans community, all of that. So the arts community and all of that. And it it was and still is, a sad memory and a sad occurrence, a deep felt um, confusion and doing my best to get a grip of it. But I will tell you, um, again, as you were saying, there's something about you notice sometimes in my speaking in my life, of my life and of my experiences. You say a calling and you say certain things, but the spirit that's in me, and I don't know, every day I give great gratitude to my mother, my father, my grandparents, the essence of how they were being. And I had come to a place in the early 80s where I was introduced to holistic living, um, natural ways of healing and arresting problems, even acne, if you will, because I was modeling late 70s, early 80s, along then connecting the singing and the dance. But from time to time, I would break out. I'd have a pimple or something. And I was ready to go to a go-see to do a fashion show. And I wouldn't be able to go for the audition because I'd have a big pimple on my nose or whatever. I was living right in Midtown in the 40s, right near Times Square area. You can ask my youngest brother, Sean, about that. There were times when he would come to visit me and we would go to see the New Year's Eve ball fall. Or, it was a big thing, still is. And I lived right there on 44th and 9th Avenue, and that's 42nd and 8th over there. And it would come and you'd get caught up in that crowd. You can get like carried around, and we've had that experience. But by that time, when that was happening, a girlfriend of mine and her friend, he and she had been studying holistic healing and health, herbs and meditating and fasting and all these things. And they would say to me, "Oh, Tommie, okay, about my skin." They would say, "Okay, let's do this, and let's do some cleaning out. Let's do some fasting, and let's start taking this and do this with the herb, natural things. And what have you been eating? Okay, we're going to do the fruits. We're going to do da-da-da-da. We're going to do some juicing." I was like, "Juicing? I drink juice." Yeah, yeah. You go to the deli and you get juice and you unscrew the top, and they're like, "No, a machine and juicing." So I started doing these things. My energy started becoming amazing, and my skin was like a baby's butt. Just amazing. And I was like going on my go-sees, I was modeling, and I was, it was showing up that way. So they would say to me, we'd walk down the street and someone would be walking this way and they'd have an asthma pump or something like that. This was back there. This was in the early 80s. And they would say to me, "Now, see that fella?" Not judgmentally, but like, he doesn't know. He doesn't have to have that asthma pump. This is back then. This is 2025 now. And still some people haven't gotten some of these messages. But they would say to me, like, if he knew that his respiratory system is clogged with mucus and it goes into the so and so and so, but there, if you do certain stuff and like clear and clean and do certain things, you clear that up, your passages, whatever. So they started teaching me ways of taking care of myself and even being able to keep maladies away. They were even talking about cancer at that time and how friends of theirs and people that they knew in that community were healing themselves of these things. So I started listening to radio programs from, non-commercial, and they would be having dissidents, they called it. There was a dissident movement of people that were talking about HIV and AIDS and all that's happening, and all the AZT that they were taking off the shelves because they were trying it for the fight on cancer. But it was so strong and it was all they had, and they knew it was killing people with cancer, giving them a short lifespan, but they were dying from it. It was so strong. But when AIDS came, they were trying everything. So they were taking AZT off the shelves too and giving that to people in hopes of it working this time, perhaps you could say, or at least giving some resolve for a period of time. But I didn't really believe too much in too many drugs and medicines and the pharmaceuticals and that whole world. It was like, and that's what you're saying early on when we would talk. I would be like, drugs. And I knew when I first met you that, you were very much into the HIV and the AIDS movement. And there were many people, certainly by that time, there had been a lot of progress in the making of these pharmaceuticals, and they even were considered a mixture, if you will.
Cocktails.
Yeah, and even some coming with a plant-based ingredient. But so yes, of course, again, I may be all over the place now at this point, but yeah, as you were asking, the community that I existed in, it was a sad thing, and people were scurrying to find out what was going on. I was scurrying to find out what was going on too. And I, at the time, started working with my cousin, Lola Falana, as you know, dancer, singer. Right?
Gorgeous.
I'm telling you, even for me, the steps that I walk in and the things that have come into my world have just been amazing in so many ways. But yeah, she was dancing and singing and working with Sammy Davis in Las Vegas and headlining in Europe and all of that, Italy. And at one point, my family would always get together when she would come into the New Jersey casino areas or someplace close, upstate New York, Great Gorge, the big casinos, and perform. So my family would always get together and we'd go and we'd be in the green room after the show and hanging out with her and some special guests. And it was a wonderful experience. And I had been here in New York doing my creative world. And one day she said to me, she called me over. And just before she called me over, actually, let me please give quick kudos and credence to, again, you women, you and your husband, the honor and the commitment that you have. My mother was sitting with Lola, and I would go often to the events and we'd talk, and Lola had a sense that I was doing some things, but I never really was the type to, I'm doing this and I want to do this and I want to come dance with you and I want to work with you. And even in my career, a lot of the projects that I've done, I've toured with Dancer of Harlem, I toured with The Wiz, I did a number of amazing things, and they didn't always come to me because I went to an audition for it. When I did the tour for The Wiz, I was in a dance class, and my regular dance teacher was out with a cold or something, so they had a substitute teacher for the class, Midtown Manhattan. And I'm in that class, and I'm dancing, and the choreographer dance teacher that worked with us in his stead, we're dancing and carrying on. I'm doing my thing and having a great time. When class was over, she walks over to me. She says, do you have a little time? Do you mind? Can you stay for a little while? And I was like, sure. So I talked to my friends and I said, okay, well, I'll meet you at the, so-and-so. We'd go for, juice and cakes and something, or sandwiches after class. And so they said, okay, we'll meet you at so-and-so. And she comes to me and she says, I'm one of the choreographers for one of the shows, one of the tours that they're taking out of The Wiz. She said, and I love the way you move. I love the way you dance. She said, would you be interested in something like that? I said, yes, I would be interested in something like that. And she said, do you sing? And I said, yes, I sing too. And I'd just been working with my vocal coach like really feverishly. And she asked if I would sing something for her. And I broke out in something. I think it was one of those, it was a Broadway tune, but I broke in, and she was like, "Oh my God, amazing, amazing." And I am baritone bass, so I have a deep voice, and then I have a middle tone that I can sometimes even go to falsetto. So she was just astounded. She asked me if I would, come meet with producers and directors on such and such a couple of days, and they would talk with me and we'd see. But that's how I got to tour with the Wiz. Not a big cattle call. Even Dancers of Harlem, touring with the Arthur Mitchell decided to form a choral group to tour with the ballet company. He wanted to do a special project and have singers and intricate musicians, like very, if you will, grassroots instruments and from different countries and traditions, and the drums and the different things. And he wanted to have that for the musicians and not the orchestra. And he wanted to have singers and the dancers be able to do some other kind of modern kind of things. So it was amazing. But I got into that because I don't live too far from the Dance Theater of Harlem. It's right around the corner from me. And I hadn't been taking dance classes that much. So I walked over to dance theater and I said, I'm going to go see if they have some adult classes and I'm going to register. I get to the counter and the women behind a desk, older women sitting, I said, "Hi, I was coming to find out about some dance classes for adults." And they were like, "Oh, we thought you were here for the audition." I was like, "The audition?" And they said,
I'll
"Oh,
take it.
yes, Mr. Mitchell, he's forming a new show. He's putting together with the dancers, and he's going to have singers and, the musicians, and they're going to tour on the West Coast and the East Coast. And it's so lovely." And I was just listening, and I was like, "Well, I do sing, and I dance." I said, "But I do sing." And I said, "But, they said," I said, "I don't have any music," but they said, "Oh, don't worry about that. You should go. You should go up there. It's around the corner and up those steps and down that hall. You should go. I'm sure they'll listen to you. And, they'll probably see you. And if they need anything, they'll probably." And I said, "Okay." And that's what happened. I went around the corner, went up the steps and went down the hall. And there was a lady at the end of the hall sitting at a desk and people all around vocalizing and doing this. And they got the sheet music and their resumes and headshots. And I just said, "Okay, Tommie, just go for it. Let go, let God." And I'm walking down the hall. And I get to the desk and I said, "Hi." I said, "I don't have anything with me. I didn't know about this, but I was going to register for classes." And she told me to do it. She said, "Oh, don't worry. Just write your name here and we'll call you in and they'll see you. And if they want anything else, your resume and everything, then they'll let you know." And that's what happened.
I have to now, I want to take you a little bit fast forward because you have a history. When I asked you about the loss of a lot of your friends and your choreography people and your arts and the people that you were involved with the stage and the theater and the drama in the 70s, the 80s, when it was the height of it all. Remember, like the Dallas Buyers Club talked so much, the movie about AZT. And they've stopped making movies like Philadelphia. They stopped making movies like that. They've stopped talking about HIV other than the drug companies. Right. Fast forwarding 25, 30, 40 years, do you feel like there is an ACT UP movement going on within HIV community, that the stigma is better? How do you feel having come through so much of this perilous time of fear and misinformation, that where you are now with the friends or with you are in New York, how do you think you've come into this time where nobody's even talking about it? Is there community activism you're involved with in any way, or where are you with this whole thing right now? Because to me, I think other than the drug companies, no one's talking about it.
Yes. Well, I've heard I've heard that. I've heard you speak that. I've heard people speak that even with COVID, people are saying people, are running around thinking, "Oh, it's done, it's over, it's gone." And so HIV for AIDS, yeah, a lot of conversations are not being had in general, but the population still exists that deal with this situation. So those populations still exist, and the and looking for the resolve from people who are from that ilk, looking for the resolve of those modalities of that. They exist. And it's sometimes when it seems like a light is not on because it's not, again, people on the tips of people's tongues these days are, wow, how you doing? I haven't seen you in a while. Oh, there's so much going on. So it's so much going on. So people are choosing what community they will be with and deal with and support and move forward with because they know it is a matter. And then others are choosing other roads to take. But I say that, yes, there are people who are staunchly committed to finding resolve in the AIDS and HIV community, finding more clearer answers, better drugs and medicines, and even holistic ways of healing.
That's what I was going to ask you about, that you're holistically approaching telling people about the more natural ways to heal the body.
Those conversations are strong, and they've been going on even from the onset till now, just as the medical community were having conversations till now. And the headway that even the holistic community has made is absolutely real, and it's amazing, and it exists. There's an herbologist here in New York that I go to and visit, and there's a gentleman that he had been diagnosed positive for 25 years, and I'm not quite sure how long he started with these herbs, but he's no longer positive. And that's not, he's not a one and done. That's been happening all over the world in different ways in different places. Mm-hmm. So while that is being said, that there are people still fighting for even urgency, for assistance, and for being able to create environments of gathering for therapy, for community, for what is out there for you, the counseling and all those things. They exist, but I do understand that there still is less of a fervor for creating those environments.
Right.
And there's a need in many places. I'm in New York City, so you can walk outside your door and go a few steps and you'll see an organization, an AIDS HIV organization, where you can go in for information, for support, housing,
transportation, and the resources.
Resources, yes.
Because here in South Florida, where I live, it's amazing. In Palm Beach County, and South Florida is like the epicenter for everything right now when it comes to HIV. You have all the different cultures coming together. You have dense populations. You have a whole different group of, it's just, Palm Beach County is so diverse in itself.
Yeah.
Like Boca Raton is not West Palm Beach, is not Belgrade, but we have so many resources here, but you have to know how to get to them, which is why this show is from all over the country. But I like asking people about where they're from and what are the resources. How do you go about it? I had a guest on, my last guest, whose show aired on Monday. He talked about how you could even pharmacies, your big Walgreens, see that even they have resources they can channel you to, that there's clinics all over. You have to Google that there are safe places that you can go that will help. So there's resources there, but you have to also be able to know how to get to them and have people talk about them. And that's where I think our communication's broken down. Yes, New York is different, and South Florida is different. We're all different than maybe Kansas or Butte, Montana. But where we are here, we have tremendous resources. But how do the people find out even still about them?
Yes,
You
indeed.
can have all these great doctors and all these great accesses to everything, but if you don't know how to even resource to get them,
Yes.
you don't speak the language, or you don't have the money, or you don't have the time, which is why I think the African American community has been really, with Black History Month, I wish there would be some programs about HIV and AIDS in the African American community, because you are marginalized. You have the women at lack of resources, lack of education, lack of health care. And it hurts me, to be in a congregation that's been impacted in their own way. But to know with Black History Month, where is there a program that could be a program talking about HIV in the African American community?
Yes, indeed. Well, I will tell you that certainly all those disparaging uh, places of yeah, you hear that phone?
That's a job interview. Don't
Yes.
take the call. You might be having an audition and end up in Miami.
Oh, make them wait. Make them wait. I'm on the level now where I can say, let them wait a moment. But I would suggest to you that even in the Black community, Latino community, et cetera, the communities that you're speaking of disparaging uh, proportions in terms of information, in terms of resources, et cetera, like they are there. They are there. The wider community may not be speaking and talking about them, but it's just like me. If I want to, if I want a glass of red wine, then I know where to go to get a bottle of red wine that I can get a glass of red wine or something like that. So if I'm concerned about, oh, I've been diagnosed with HIV, and I need to figure out some stuff. So most people with the wherewithal, because yes, we can start talking about youth, but even youth today, even the millennials, et cetera, they know how to find things. And so these places that are around, certainly we're saying that there, Florida, here, New York City, they're really magnified. But you can find your way to the place. You can find your way information on where you can go and what resources you have at your place, if they exist in place
Right.
that we're talking. So geographically, yes, down south and other places. I have a good buddy who works he's down south in the Carolinas, and he's was living here in New York for quite some time, and a physician's assistant. And he came up to visit me for the holidays and stayed, and he was telling me how sad he is that it's hardly any resources for the young ones that are coming into the hospital, clinics, and those things, being diagnosed with HIV, being diagnosed with gonorrhea, being diagnosed with syphilis. And as you
Mhm.
say, these conversations like that, some of these things don't still exist, but they do. But then they're coming here, and then some of the young ones, their parents have put them out because the boys love a boy or the girl loves a girl. And so they threw them out of the house. And so they're in the streets. And, you
I
know,
see it.
so that is sad it exists, but where those places are in dire need, again, like my friend who is from that area but came up to New York for years. He's been up here working, and he went down in the last couple of years after the pandemic. He said, I'm going back down south, whatever, wherever. I think in Indianapolis or somewhere. I can't even remember. I get so, but I told him about you. I told him about what you're doing, and I told him about, and he knows about what they're doing in New York. He lived here, and so that's what is being done, because it's the only thing that can be done. Each one teach one. So then he has to be the one, and whatever like-minded folk are around him, in his fellow nurses and teams or whatever, then they have to create that space. That's all, and that's what's happening too, in a particular way. Because even in the city, like you say, like here, there's many resources, but a lot of a lot of them don't choose to even utilize that. They want to like close their eyes and just kind of exist. So it's a catch-22, but I wouldn't say that I would not say at this time, 2025, that there are not places and spaces where you can get information about it if you're seeking it.
Yeah. You
But
have to want to.
right. But I agree though. Oh yeah, there can be so much more. I mean, if I can see a liquor store in every corner and excuse me, brother Billy, but if I can see a church on every corner, then I can see some facilities that handle well-being of all ilk and on all levels, more in more places and spaces. And so yeah, I'm hopeful for both of it. Like when you were saying that, okay, it was challenging to get me to come and be and talk. Early on in my journey, I was clear that I wasn't interested. Let me say it this way. I wasn't trusting of drugs. I wasn't trusting of the pharmaceuticals. And they were coming up with things and they were giving them to people and they were still dying. And they were like, well, it's the best we could do. So they, of course, and that's how sometimes things start out. You experiment, you figure it out. And some are for the good of that figuring out, and some are from, they don't need to be here anyway. They're homosexuals and they're sinners, and this is God saying they need to die. So I didn't trust a lot of those companies and those that ilk. And,
it can be very It can be very hurtful, and the people you want to help the most, you're hurting the most.
Yes.
And that's a bad place to be, because there is information out there. Yeah. There are places and facilities, but if you're shutting it down because you're in denial of it, or because there's no money to be made off of it, like with what's going on with funding for the project, many of the resources for Palm Beach, that's a conversation we have at the HIV Care Council, which I'm a part of. That's a big part of it, is they're concerned about funding. Yes. Because of the cutbacks, and yes. Where you shouldn't be cutting back is in research. Yes. In areas like this, and yes. They're really concerned that the HIV budget is going to get cut back because of it.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, as the pharmaceuticals connected, with the hospitals, et cetera, and the money that flows through that arena, I don't know. It sounds to me like they're not going to do too much of cutting off their, nose to spite their face. Funding for like particular entities like you, like the company you have, and even Campbell, Health. Yes, Health Solutions. Perhaps a lot of the major funding, we can say would be cut from that. But the only thing that comes to me right now is that everything, like a tree, grew from a seed. So when you look at that perspective and say, wow, this is going to be taken away and we're not going to have so how did you get it in the first place? You still started from a seed, and then you reached out, and there were some branches that connected for whatever reason to you and helped support certain things to show up. So I say that even if this movement, if you will, this concern, this had to be reduced, if you will, to the beginning stages of that seed, if you will, of that place, then here we go. Like, Spirit is coming forth in me now, and who we are all made of. And Spirit will say, let's plant this seed now, and we will grow this way. We did it that way. And that lasted, and it had some value, but And even in this whole time that we're in, what we're experiencing right now, things that were done in the dark are coming to the light. And this is a place and a time when redemption, things that were taken from you and that were yours, and the corporate and the money and and taken, and greed and all that. So
Big
yes, some of
word.
them are feeling like they're trying to take it again and get it, but things are not letting it stay with them. Babylon is falling, you know. Um, redemption
Redemption.
song.
Big word. Redemption.
Yes, yes. And
That
so
is the word. To me, that's the big word for 2025. Redemption.
yeah, so the movement that the journey that you've been on, and it started grassroots, and it got some trucking along, and some and Campbell Health Solutions, and it's got some funding and some that movement. There were things that were and are still for you, for us, and the naysayers, the ones that care to take it and do their own thing. It looks like some of them are existing and winning now, if you will. But don't give up on us, baby.
No.
God got us. God got us.
Do you believe that you're on, and that your brother is my pastor and your sister-in-law is my prophet? I mean, they're my surrogates. They're in charge of my life. I don't have any family. All my family is deceased. No kids, no husband, no family. And so I realized that, my lawyer, who's in charge of everything, he's my age, so he's living on borrowed time also. And so I said to them, I called them in a huffle. I was a mess. I said, I don't have any family. I don't have any family. And I try, would you please be my surrogates? Could I put you down and you'll take care of me and everything's there? And then out of hesitation, yes. I said, oh, thank you very much. That's such a relief, because I got both of them. But it was like I was called there. It was so amazing. It's just, being Jewish and being in that culture and that whole thing. And I just came there wanting an HIV testing ministry. I just wanted to talk about HIV in the community. And I just needed it. And eventually I was able to have it and stay with it. And every once in a while, your brother throws me a little saying, you can get up on the stage for a minute, for a couple of minutes and talk. He throws me a little bone, and I'm thrilled because I can still in a couple of minutes get my thing out. Yeah. And it's just been a marvelous thing to be with them.
And it's like I would love, even that community, the community of churches, etc., for all the maladies that inform our communities, our human communities, the cancers, the diabetes, these things definitely have programs and projects, and bring it to the people there in the churches. Yeah. So in the churches and the shops and the stores and the community centers, everywhere, and bring it forth, the healing of the people, and so have the workshops and have classes and have skits and plays and that sort of thing. And
communicate, but to talk, not just Google it, not just with your thumbs. Communicate, talk, community. My late husband used to always say, the relationship ends when the communication stops.
Yeah, so make it tangible, something that you can touch and hold on to,
relatable,
and put into your spirit and your heart and walk with it. And so, there are many. Again, my brother, my sister-in-law, and their spiritual practice, and there's God, spirituality, healing, the righteous, all of that. But for me, the common denominator with all of it is humanity. And I'll tell you a quick little joke, and so Pastor Billy and Cynthia, prophetess, will be able to have a laugh to seeing this. I was visiting down for some time at their home in Boca, and spending some time down there. And my brother would often tease me, oh, so what you doing? Oh, you do that chanting, because I was practicing Buddhism. and Nam Myoho Renge Kyo and chanting and everything. And he said, you doing that again? He said, when you coming to Jesus, when you coming to the church, when you, and then I'd say, leave me alone. And he'd go, oh yeah, you doing that. And we were in the kitchen one day and making breakfast, and Cynthia and I were talking, making breakfast and laughing and having fun. And then Billy comes down. He's like, oh, I heard you up there doing your boom. He said, when are you going to stop that? And Cynthia said, stop it, Billy. She said, stop, leave Tommie alone. He's one of the most peaceful, gentle spirits that I know. And she said, some people at our church, we're working on them to be that, and he leave him alone. He's okay. He's good. And I was like, thank you, Cynthia.
Thank
and I
you,
was
Cynthia.
like, Dad, Billy.
Yeah.
And he laughs, his laugh, oh, okay.
Oh, they're wonderful.
Just playing.
And you know what's interesting is that my late husband, Jeffrey, was so much like your brother. I always tell them that. So much, the calmness, being when he had to be, but the calmness and the listening. He might be planning a trip, but he was listening. Or he might be planning where we're going to eat tomorrow, but he was still listening. And I was more like her. Everything had to be done now and big and bold. And, that's so I relate to both of them.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's like my husband and I'm more like her. So it's a marvelous relationship. And do you have any organization or any way that people, if they want to find out what's going on in New York or your area, where they could contact you? Do you have a website or an email address?
Yeah, all right now that I offer up is my Facebook and email. I don't even have my Instagram account anymore, but I do the.
Because we'll run that. We'll put that at the bottom of the screen if you want to give either your email or your webs or something that they can contact you. Because if they are in that area in Harlem, you'd be able to help them if they needed to get something.
Yes, indeed.
So what is it?
For all of it, they can get to me for the health and the HIV, the AIDS information, health information, holistic information. So Facebook, I'm Tommie, Tommie, Tommie Thompson. That's Facebook. And my email address, Mystic Missions at Yahoo. So MYSTIC, Mystic Missions at yahoo.com. Missions plural, okay. Mystic Missions.
Great. Are you going to come down here at any time soon?
I was just talking to my best friend up here, who Cynthia and Billy know, James Huffman, retired librarian from the Schaumburg, amazing fellow. And we're just close, good friends. And we were just talking about this cold, this ice and snow. And I was telling him how both my brothers and sister-in-laws, my younger brother, Sean, he's in Palm Beach with his wife and family, and brother Billy. And they're constantly, okay, whenever you figure it out, we waiting for you. We got the guest room and you can come down. And, and I'm like, okay, you get so caught up in New York and then you got to do this and do this. But I'm like, no, I got to take some time. I have some friends in Jamaica. They have some property. They're like, come hang out. And I'm ready to spread my wings and come down and hang down. And the last, I'll say this, my sister often reminds me, my dad, she said, our oldest sister, there's 6 of us. So the oldest is the matriarch, kind essence. She's been down, but she often tells me things. She says, well, Daddy told me so-and-so, and she would tell me these things. I said, well, how come Daddy didn't tell me? He didn't tell me that. I'm 3 years after her, but she said, well, I guess I was the oldest and I was a girl, so he was giving me advice like that. So I said, okay, well, if I have to hear it now from you, then good. But she said, Daddy used to always say, sometimes it's better to be a big fish in a small pond than a little fish in a big pond. So she often tells me, okay, you're in New York and but you can go other places and do your thing. And, still, you'll go. And so I'm starting to really hear that. And I'm ready to go other places, create my own show. I'm working on a one-man show of Paul Robeson. I've been doing him for Black History Month and some other projects. So, yeah, I'm going to be tripping the light fantastic.
I know from the past year that you've changed a lot. You're much more, I don't mean outgoing in a dance way. You come out more with your personality as far as communicating in general. Because
Ashe.
even when I wanted you on last year, you weren't ready
I
to
wasn't
talk
ready.
about anything with me that way either. So, and I know that you and I are going to be talking a lot to each other over the
Yeah.
next period of time, and you will be down here at some point, and we'll
Yes.
go out. I have a wonderful
And
restaurant we're
we'll
going
be
to go
talking
to.
a lot off the air and all of that and in real time, and I'll be down in to visit. And I
And
do hope to come back and visit again because I know that, as you said, even as recent and asking me in last year, etc., I wasn't ready. Yes, I am at a place now where I know, like, um, the
yeah,
voice, speaking brings forth, asking it shall be given. So I'm realizing the value of this
yeah, you're in a better place with you. And that's where we
with
are
me
on our
also.
journey. We're all
Yes,
on a journey in life, and you're in a better place with you. And that's where we are. Some days are better than others, but we're all on this journey, and you become much better with you. And while the time I have left, I just want to thank my guests tonight. The incredible, the entertainer, the talk of New York City,
woo,
the
the
one,
award
the
that I won
only.
for best
Tommie
actor in a
Thompson.
musical.
Oh, a Golden Globe. What is that?
Yes, it's called the Adelco Award. I won it for best actor in a musical that was done, and they did
Oh, so
live.
proud of you. I have a celebrity on the show. I have a celebrity on the show tonight. Don't tell anybody. And I want you, I always give my guests a homework assignment. You can tell I love doing this. I always give my guests a homework assignment. You are to find somebody else, send somebody else to to me or to Ricardo Jackson at Campbell Health Solutions, and we'll send you the calendar and the link, and there'll be a guest. That's how this thing's working. And it's true. It's a grassroots movement. There's no
Yes,
other show like it. Nobody
yes,
else doing it. And when I said to Ricardo, I was on his show, his podcast a year and a half ago, and I told him, I wanted to do this for a long time, and nobody's been right. I haven't felt right. I can't do anything with anybody if I'm not in the spirit with them. And he said right off the bat, let's do it. And here we are, 30
kudos.
episodes
Yes.
later and into season 2. But
Yes, he
that's a
had sent me a
homework
message
assignment.
earlier. Kudos to them. Yes,
But
indeed.
that's a homework assignment. I want to thank my guest, Tommie Thompson, who's going to bring me an awful lot of people from New York City.
Yes,
And
he
I
is.
want to thank our listeners. And I want to say to everybody out there, get tested for HIV. Don't assume anything and don't let the stigma hurt. Don't let that stigma get you. You are worthy and you're deserving of a great and healthy life. Get tested, know your status, get to the resources, a good doctor who'll listen to you,
Yes.
and get on meds early, and you can have a long, productive, and very
Yes.
healthy
The
life.
meds have
And you
come a
don't know
long
whose life
way
you're
and they're
going to be
very
changing,
helpful.
and you don't know whose life you're going to be changing.
Yes.
So take that first step and be your own advocate for good health.
Yes, your own advocate and really look inside yourself and know that the pharmaceuticals have come a long way and we
Mhm.
still also have access to our innate healing abilities and those kinds of things, the way we eat, the things we drink, the things we partake of in our spirit, that we can become whole from these things too. So let's marry the two as best we can and keep fighting that journey so that we can one day totally get back to the land for our healing. Because that's what it says in the good book, right?
I love you. I do.
Ashe.
I do. I love you.
I love you back.
I know, and I'm so glad you dressed up like this. Here I am, the way I look, and you put your on there for Black History Month. Thank you so much.
Yes, 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 yes,
We
yes.
might get cut off at absolutely any moment. I still haven't figured the little time out that I get to say goodbye to everybody, but I haven't figured that. I don't have the timing down perfectly yet. But I said when we get all our sponsors and we're national, they're going to hold me to the minute. I'm going to have those things in my ears that says you got 30 seconds to wrap it up.
Yes, yes, which is wonderful.
But if not,
So
all of a
I
sudden, boom.
appreciate I appreciate the company. I appreciate what you're doing, and to the community out there, heads up. I appreciate that, and keep seeking, seeking you shall find, and to the Jesus People Proclaim community, I offer you my heart and my spirit. And
Oh, thank you. That's the first time I've seen a thank you. Thank you. That's what I need, more cues like that. Thank you. Oh,